you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise direct force pro wheelbase and precision pedals are used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
A new season brings with it all together new excitement, new challenges, and new tracks. And for this season, a new car in the form of the Mercedes-AMG GT3 Evo. And it all comes together here at Silverstone for the first round of the ARL GT Trophy Series. Hello, everyone. My name is DJ Clark, joined here in the booth by David Whitehouse with Jamie Flew behind the scenes here today. And David, I can't think of a better place to be able to start this season off than at the historic Silverstone circuit.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending where you're from. This is going to be a cracking season. As you can see, we already have a huge grid of cars. I don't think I've seen a grid this big for a long time in the ARL GT3 Trophy. We got the three classes from last year, very popular series last year, but it's massively slowed this year. And like you say, we got the Mercedes and the historic Silverstone circuit, which is just, well, world renowned. And we're obviously going from a wing building today, which makes it such a good venue to come racing.
Yeah, it certainly does. As we take a look here at the track map, going down to that first corner, always very tricky to try to get right, especially at the start as we wind our way through the rest of this circuit, David.
Yeah, you come down into turn 3, you've got to brake just as the curb starts, take it down a few gears and just take it nice and calmly through 3 and 4. Don't try and push too hard, you can lose too much time there. Onto the Wellington, straight down towards Brooklands. Perfect overtaking opportunity into Brooklands at turn 6 and Luffield at turn 7. Many different lines to be taken through Luffield actually, which then leads onto the old pit straight through Woodcote at 8 and on towards the famous Cops Corner at 9. Obviously, Lewis and Max showed how not to do it last season, but we will see people overtaking into that corner. And then it's a run down into the Maggots-Beckett section. High speed, commitment needed. But again, you could ruin your race through here just by taking too much speed. You've got to be careful. Patient on the throttle out of 13, through the flat out 14, down the hanger straight towards Stowe Corner. And that is a good overtaking spot into 16 and 17 at Club. Brilliant spot to try and get that last position on the final couple of corners. Patient on the throttle through 18. Don't turn in too early because you will run wide and off onto what is now the main pit straight.
Indeed, a great look there at this historic circuit. So many changes throughout history, but still an electric place to go racing as we focus here on your leader, Thomas Cope, as he works his way around, obviously the championship winner from last season, able to be able to be back out on track in that familiar Olympus Esports machine, trying to pick up exactly where he left off.
Yeah, Thomas Cope absolutely flying at the end of last year, just as, if we remember rightly, he broke his foot or his ankle, and it was only just about kind of healed by the time he got to the final round, but he went on a dramatic charge of race wins, which really put him in the seat, and he is now the championship sort of favourite going into the final round. But we've got a ton of new names. Just looking at the list, we have the driver who was very quick last season, but only just got his first win at the end of the season, and that was, if I can find him, it's so far down, C.Herbigneaux, who's currently putting in a lap time. He was the king of saving fuel and managed to make it pay in the final round at Interlagos. Thomas Cope, as we said, one of the favourites. And I would also like to add in Chris Danes. Down here as the Danish driver, he's known as the Viking. I've raced him in real life on circuits, and he really doesn't take any prisoners, so he will be one to watch this season.
We certainly will, and it's the way we run this season, the same as we did last season. 3 different categories of drivers, all driving the same machinery out there, a Pro-Am, and Am lineup, so drivers will get to compete within those classes and to score points across the board, so definitely some impetus to try to see them get up, and some of the storylines that we saw last year, some of the Am or even the Pro-Am drivers being able to mix themselves up with the classes up ahead of them, and that really made for some interesting racing out on track.
Yeah, it certainly did, especially, I think the final round was one of the most mixed up ones. We had a Pro-Am front row, which made it really awkward, but we're now watching...
Sorry, I've been talking to you, I didn't realize the output device was messed up.
Start well in his pro campaign. We're not expecting him to be right up front straight away, because we do have some huge numbers in terms of the I ratings in the pro category, as we just see Niels Erik Isaacson taking provisional pole ahead of Thomas Cope. It's only the first laps going in, but that just shows a signal of their intent to try and stop Cope straight away, and the top 3 only covered by half a tenth.
Very, very close running at the top as we focus in on one of the other drivers that we got to know pretty well last season, Tom Bingham, trading out that familiar McLaren, going into that new Mercedes AMG GT3 Evo. As we said, this is the kid on the block, an upgraded model of the old Mercedes that has been on the service for a good long while. iRacing rolling out this car in the latest round of updates.
Yeah, it's not a car that I'm personally used to. I didn't even have the old one on iRacing, but it is a car which seems to have become rather popular going into this season, and as you can see, there's a huge amount of Mercedes badges on the left-hand side of the screen. But the top 3 different cars, the Lamborghini, BMW, which I think Herbigneaux was in the Lamborghini last year, so that's a change of cars for himself into the BMW. And we've got Isaacson in the Mercedes on top, and actually the Audi popping into 4th place for Carl Winkler, who we normally see in the BMW as well. So an interesting change there for some of the drivers, as Marek Paulich also up into 5th place. So good to see the 2 Germans back in the field.
Very much so, and interesting there to talk about as we watch Herbigneaux, the change in platforms there, that a little bit more twitchy. It tends to have a little bit more of an ability to step out, a sharper front nose as it drives into the corner. The BMW tends to have a little bit more of understeer characteristics, a little bit more of a car you can really chuck into the corner and feel it as it goes, although those twin turbos in the BMW always run out for really high speed, specifically at some of the higher elevation circuits. Obviously not worrying about that here today, but it'll be interesting to see how these drivers cope with those changes in machinery over the course of the season.
Yeah, exactly, and the drivers have to try and get used to the drive. Just like we have to get used to trying to say some of the names that are on this grid, which is going to be fun for some of us at the pace. There is one of them in Matt's Jester Rumbacken. If we're trying to say that in the middle of a battle, that's going to be fun. So don't worry if we do call him Matt. But the drivers will have to just get used to this machinery, get used to the setups. They'll start learning through the first few rounds on how to set the cars up. And it's also useful if you've got teammates as well, because that also comes into play. Whereas somebody like Tim Perry, for example, he's the only McLaren on the field, so he's not got anybody to talk to about how to set that car up. It's just down to him to try and do the best he can.
Yes, it is, and as you said, the lone McLaren out on the field. Hopefully you won't have to talk too much about that off-throttle oversteer that the car is known for. It tends to get a very, very loose end when you're off of the throttle. So we'll have to see there how he is able to do there this week. Tim Perry, as you said, the lone McLaren in the field. Pretty much everybody else, you mentioned this earlier here, David, pretty much everybody else looking to favor the shiny new toy, looking to favor this Mercedes. This appears to be the preferred car for this season.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't actually realise how little the Lamborghini's being used this season. I mean, we can't have a look further down in terms of the tower, but we've got 25 drivers there, and there's only one Lamborghini, and that was sort of the in-car last season. Before that, it was BMW, which is obviously you can see is still on the grid, but yeah, everybody going for this Mercedes and really pushing hard on it. But C.Herbigneaux not looking at that, and Thomas Cope not looking at it. And they're two of the quickest drivers we have in the field.
Yeah, and that's one of the amazing things
nice lap,
about
mate.
the plethora of choices here on iRacing for the GT3 driver. There are plenty of cars now out on track that you really get to drive what suits your own style. Each of these cars have their own little individual quirks and niggles that you can kind of get used to, and plenty of different things to be able to draw into, to find your own driving style and how it goes. We're on board right now with Belucci as he comes around those final couple of corners. As you mentioned earlier, David, very crucial to keep up some good speed coming out of there.
Yeah, you just have to be very cautious with track limits on the outside. But while we've been talking, Christoph,
do you have a spotter?
Provisional pole position with Carl Winkler. Isaacson didn't manage to go any quicker, so he stays third. Thomas Cope is out there on a lap at the moment. Paulich is out there on a lap. Lang has come into the pits now. Lucas Lang, if you've been with us the last couple
I'll keep an eye on. I'm streaming your onboard right now on YouTube.
This year, and I can't, the top Porsche
but
at the moment is crisp down in
if it seems like it's getting hairy, I'll jump to a different camera.
Sort of well picked at the moment in terms of the pick of cars, and like you say, the German manufacturer of Mercedes, certainly people favouring the new toy now they've got it.
Yes, they are, and yeah, very surprising to see low Porsche numbers. We normally have some good
He can
ones
spot you on iRacing if you want.
That for the course of the season, you are locked into your car choice, so it's not like you can go out here today at Silverstone and say, hey, you know what, I want to change things up next time out. You've got to stay in the same car the entire time. As we watch Greg Hubler here coming through those last couple of corners. Hubler down in third in the Pro-Am category, hoping to get a couple of tenths to see if he can maybe get onto the front row of Pro-Am.
Yeah, it comes across the line, and it doesn't look like there's an improvement there by Hubler, but everybody has now finished their qualifying efforts. The 10 minutes are up, and we now have a grid set for the start of this race, and it's going to be interesting to see who can really make a start in this huge field of drivers. I think we have about 57, 55, 57 in the field, so it's going to be really a chaotic opening start to a race. And normally we've seen this over a couple of first couple of laps. You may have a bit of chaos in the middle of the field, but it settles down very quickly, ready for the pit stops. I don't think they're going to have a chance with a 50-car field.
No, I don't think you are either. I think traffic is going to play a big, crucial part today, even though this is a long Formula One grade style circuit. We're going to have traffic to contend with. We are going to have constant action out on track. It is certainly going to be something that no driver is really going to be able to back off at any point. It is going to be all cannons full bore ahead.
Yeah, it's going to be absolute full throttle for the hour-long race we have here at Silverstone. Started, as we say, from the wing pit. So it's also quite interesting pit lane here at Silverstone. But before we talk about that, first we'll go to the grid. And in the first 12 places, we have Christophe Herbigneaux on pole position for Delta Sport, starting where he left off with that victory in Interlagos last time out. Carl Winkler back
Starting
in
the
series,
season off with the
on
pole.
front row. Niels Isaacson third, Thomas Cope, our champion, in fourth, Brandon Tabone fifth, Mout Powlich sixth, Lucas Lang seventh, Chris Daines on his debut in 8th place, Matthew Crispin 9th, Sandro Marceni in 10th, Echi Larson in 11th, Kimon Sapini in 12th.
Lining up at 13th, it's going to be Matthew McBride, followed by Chester Micken there in 14th. Martin Deckens will be 15th, followed by Greg Hubler with Dominic Sawicki and Ronald Grossman in 18th, starting to get into the mix here of the Pro-Am and Pro categories. Alexander Kessler will be 19th, and David Gill with a fantastic run to be able to put his car in 20th on the pole position for that AM field. Christian Malcherek will be in 21st, followed by Alexander Scarrett with Tom Bingham and Martin Konevka in 24th.
25th, we have Kieran Smart and Kevin Gardner. We have Leonard Schumo and Jakob Behrens, Tim Perry, Stuart Winners down in 30th.
Clear up, boy.
DeWitt, Leon with Chris Brantz, Nuremberg, Trotsky. Looking further back, we've got Regan Wetter, Cowlishaw, Fowler, Adam Morrison probably expecting a little bit more. And as you can see at the back there, we have 58 cars and Paul Joseph Kliss bringing up the rear.
Indeed we do, as the cars work their way out of the final corners here. Christophe Herbigneaux leading the field to the green flag, waiting to get onto the loud pedal. And there goes the green. We are racing in Silverstone. It's a good getaway as they get going. Fanning out 3-4 wide there behind Herbigneaux as they dive down into the corner right now. Working their way down through a couple of cars off. Got a couple of cars there getting into problem. We focus here on Pitty Larson as they work their way 2 by 2 down through the first set of corners right now, trying to see if there's anything to be had as they work their way around, trying to go. And there it is as they get down onto the long Wellington straight, working their way through, still side by side through the rest of the field. We jump back up to Christophe Herbigneaux, who looks like he's been able to hold off everything as they hold out behind them. A little bit of side by side there in the back as they work their way down through Brooklands and Luffield.
Yeah, we've got a huge field of cars here, and absolute just this is not going to settle for a good few laps, so it's really hard to sort of judge who is going to make the moves and who is going to sort of sit back and just let things come to them in this race.
Yes, it is, as we continue to watch drivers working their way around here, coming out of Cops for the first time, everyone trying to get themselves in line. We focus here on Stuart Wyness. Remember that driver promoted up into the Pro category after his fantastic run in Pro-Am last time, working on his teammate there, Kieran Smart, directly up ahead of him. Those two Track Scotland drivers will have something to prove.
Yeah, it's certainly Stuart Wyness who will really want to fight back. I think he started down in 30th on the grid, so certainly looking to try and make a strong start, and he's up to 24th already.
Yes, he is. We focus back in on the leader as he breaks down for the final sequence of corners there. Christophe Herbigneaux holding off Winkler behind him, although Winkler putting up a good little charge there in the Audi, the highest placed Audi there. The closest you've got to go down there is all the way down to Grossman in 19th. Looks like Herbigneaux able to set the fastest lap of the race there on the first one out. No surprises there.
Yeah, it's quite sort of spread out. Thomas Cope down in 13th, though. That's the biggest surprise of the race so far. He's going to have to really work hard to move back through his field, but we've seen him do before, and it's probably going to happen the same again. Chris Daines falling down to 21st on his first lap.
And Cope already looking aggressive there as they run, trying to see if he can be able to get him up front of Deckens, up ahead of him. That is a Pro-Am driver, so he's definitely going to want to try to get a move on there. We've seen already 2 good looks there from Cope as they go down into the corners. He is trying to find a way by.
Yeah, he's got to start making moves quick, especially on Deckens, who is in the Pro-Am category. And then he's got Kessler, Larson, Marceni, McBride, Chris to all try and work his way through before he even thinks about trying to get back in the top 6.
Yeah, he has got to focus there, and he may not have the opportunity here going down into Cops. A very, very fast corner. You don't necessarily want to get the move fully set down into there, but he is just trying to hold that Lamborghini as close as he can. The highest placed Lamborghini in the field as of right now. Remember, Cope down 9 positions on the day right now.
Yeah, he's really needing to make that move, and we've got Herbigneaux just stretching his lead a little bit at the front and just making sure that he's not challenged in these early stages.
No, doesn't want to get challenged. Cope starting to build a little bit of a gap back between himself and Schnebel there as they go. It looks like about 0.3 of a second. Oh, we're almost 3 wide there in the back as they go down into the corner. That is a very, very precarious situation to be going down into Stowe.
Yeah, you don't want to be going 3 wide into Stowe. Hopefully, for the sake of everybody, they might just calm it down in these opening 6 minutes gone already in this race.
I would call that Noah's Ark style down into this, down into Vale, but oh, we've got a car around there that looks like it's Grossman trying to hold on to it the best of his ability as he is going to miraculously be able to hold on to that car. Kudos there to the Audi driver. He somehow was able to hold on to that. I am absolutely amazed that he got that going.
Yeah, it's not the way you really need to do it. You need to, you know, this is an hour-long race. We don't need an accident really early on, and as we see Matthew McBride coming down towards Brooklands now, really needing just to settle down a little bit and just make sure that BMW just stays where he is for now. Yeah,
a lot of early nerves here, I think, for a lot of these drivers as they go, but McBride's got to watch out. He's got Larson behind, so we've got a good side-by-side there in the back. That's David Gill, and David Gill's going to get a little love tap from behind, and that's going to send him around going down through the corner. He's going to have to take a shortcut and a slowdown penalty.
Yeah, the right choice by Gill there to just not try and rejoin in the middle of the field, because that would be even more chaos, but by the looks of that, he just got his nose cut off by the car that spun. I'm not sure who that was, but it's certainly not the start of the race David Gill wanted from his lead. Well, he was pole in the AM category, had a great end to the last season and really wanted to, you know, kickstart his championship here, but he is now down behind Nürburg, who is leading the AM category.
And looking behind him there, Paluch already has a little bit of damage to the rear wing.
Doing a good job, mate.
Why that pro driver is so far down in the field. They focus back in.
Take care of the car. Easy on the brakes.
Earlier, the Delta Sport driver
save some fuel.
His legs a little bit here. He's got the gap up to about 0.7 of a second between himself and Winkler.
Yeah, he's just trying to, as I say, just trying to stretch it out a little bit. Just trying to control this race from front, which Herbigneaux really showed he could do at Interlagos last season, but Winkler not really giving up just now, and we just heard David Gill, I think, has headed to pit lane to repair a little bit of that damage from that contact.
Yes, indeed, trying to get a little bit of that, and remember, we will see those pit stops. We traditionally anticipate them coming down about halfway through the race. That 30-minute mark is normally when we see it. As Thomas Cope already on his recovery drive here, trying to get that little bit of a move done, going down into the corner. A little bit of a blinking Kessler there. That's always a little bit of a scary moment as a driver.
Yeah, you don't need somebody flashing in front of you, whether it's lights or the car just disappearing, but Larson now just in front of Cope. He's trying to challenge Matthew McBride, the top track Scotland driver at the moment, and McBride doing well, but just losing a little bit of the gap to Marcini in front.
Yeah, just losing out a little bit as they go, but that's some of the give and take you're going to have to do as the race goes along. Watching here, Matthew McBride losing a little bit of touch to Marcini up ahead of him, but he has got to worry about that green Mercedes of Larson coming in behind him. That car looking very, very powerful.
Yeah, the Mercedes very powerful in a straight line, always known for it, but this new one just seems to have a rocket of a straight line speed. He's right right behind Matthew McBride. He pulls out into Stowe, has a look. McBride cuts his nose off and says, "You're not coming through this time." Leaves him just enough space, and McBride lives to fight another day. With Larson probably close behind, but Cope not really making the ground on these two, which we would kind of expect. Maybe he's just looking after him tyres a little bit.
Hello, Jakob.
This hour-long race has a long way to go, and he's only 8 seconds off the lead.
Well, that's a good point. We haven't talked about tire wear. These drivers not going to be taking tires over the course of this hour-long race, so you've got to preserve them through both stints of the race, and that is something, especially around a high-degradation circuit like Silverstone here, that can be very, very tricky to try to do. Focus back in the field a little bit. Here is Nürburgring as he tries to hold off Sorensen from behind, some Luke behind them, continuing to fall backwards still with the rear wing damage on that Audi.
Yeah, while the drivers do score for their own category, as in like it being in 26, he will score points for 26. So while we say it's not always worth a fight for these people, it actually is in this category because every position still counts for a point.
Exactly. Every last position is going to count, so you're going to want to try to fight that as hard as possible. Luke going a little bit defensive there, I think, trying to hold off Sorensen from behind him. Sorensen not able to get the move done as they go, but oh, a little bit of an opportunity there as that looked like Nürburgring running a little bit wide, and here comes Maluch trying to fight back.
Yeah, and this is where drivers like Marcel will need to start learning very quickly, like David Gill had to last year, but when you get involved in these battles, sometimes, yes, you might need to save every point going, but give this one up, come back to fight another day. You're still leading the AM category, you're still well ahead of your own rivals, who are Luke Pint and Russ Fowler at the moment, who are down 3-4 positions behind him.
Well, that's a storyline that we always talk about over the course of these seasons, is getting that buffer in between yourself and your competitors in class. Very, very important to be able to try to do, and it certainly looks like here that he's been able to do that. We focus back, though, on Thomas Hope right now, who has been able to dispatch with Matthew McBride back up into the top 10, the Olympus Esports driver. Now has to try to focus in on Marsani up ahead of him as they go and fly their way through Hobbs. This is not the start of the season, I have to think, that Thomas Cope would have liked to have started with.
No, it's not the start of the season Cope would be looking for, but he knows it's an hour-long race. He knows that consistency can help you in this title race. When you don't win races, you want to be top 3, top 4, and he still has a huge chance of getting that. He's got Marcini, Chris, Lucas Lang, who we know is certainly a quick driver, Tapini and Isaacson to get into that top 4. But again, we say it again, he's only 9 seconds off C.Herbigneaux. Anything can happen around Silverstone. It's a nice wide track, but still fast corners, tyre wear can all come into this, and we'll just have to see what happens. A little bit later on, the pit stops normally start around 25 minutes and go up until about 35. So the other thing that drivers will need to remember is where their pit box is, because with 50 cars or 58 cars on the grid, you could have 25, 30 of the pits at once, and you need to find your man quickly.
Yeah, you do indeed, and that's a very good point to bring up. You've got to be able to come in just that little bit of an error. We've seen it come out to bite people before. Missing the pit box by just a few feet and having to reverse back in can be the difference in a race. As we now focus in on that battle with Lucas Lang, Sapini right up ahead of him. Come on, holding off Lang, as you said earlier, used to seeing him in that Porsche, a little bit more of a planted platform here in this Mercedes-AMG Evo. A little bit more understeering. The Porsche, that rear end likes to waggle out quite a bit. The Mercedes not so much. As there goes Matt. That is going to be Schnebel on by him, I believe.
Yeah, that's a sensible move just to let them go. We're certainly not going to miss that green Mercedes out there on the field at the moment. Nice and shiny in the Silverstone sun, which I can guarantee once iRacing bring in rain, Silverstone will hardly ever dry with the British weather we normally have. But guess just Trumbacken doing a good job on his debut, and he's coming back at Schnellbull into the second corner, into 3 and 4. And who's that diving up the inside? It's Swarovski coming up the inside in the BMW, and it may give Kieran Smart a chance as well going on to Wellington Straight. Smart being really careful, because we know he has more pace than this after watching him last season, and he's up the inside of Mads Christianbakken, and he will make the move down into Brooklands. No, but Mercedes holding on around the outside very nicely. He'll have the inside for Luffield. Kieran Smart still on the outside as he comes out of Luffield. Will he get the run? It's still side by side as they head towards Cops.
Oh, and this has disaster written all over on it. You've got to be careful about going too wide through Cops, but great respect there from both drivers, as there is the back off from Smart as he decides to fight another day, not wanting to go too wide through Cops. But now he has got to worry about Maltrek there behind him, as that Mercedes looking very, very aggressive as well, trying to see what he can do as they fly their way through Maggots and Beckett's.
Just having a look at the live timing, Marcel Nürnberg has he dropped down to 10th in class? I'm not 100% sure where my live timing is coming up correctly, but I have Luke Pint as leading the AM category. So if that's true, something has happened out on track to Marcel Nürnberg. Yes, he's down into 47, and there's been an incident somewhere for the Swiss driver.
Yeah, look at the heavy damage on the front of that BMW. I think he got a little bit friendly with one of the barriers around the outside of Silverstone circuit, and so that has dropped him all the way down. We're going to go back and check out the replay brought to you by STK Gaming. Looks like he's already picked up the damage there at that point. This is him getting past, I think. Not sure what happened. Oh, and that'll send him around, and that will be a loss of position for sure.
Yeah, it just looked like he either went for a gap or it didn't quite break how he expected. He tried to avoid an accident, but obviously the other driver was turning in at the time, and not a lot he could probably do about it. Just looking also down this field, we have Jay Walsh, who didn't start the race, DeWitt, Brain, Rance, Bingham, Tom Bingham in his first Pro-Am performance, Matt Sedger, Lee Shields, Paul Joseph Pless, Graham Lynch, Adam Morrison and Christoph Otterholt have all been to the pits. Sorry, David Gill have all been to the pits in this opening few laps, and they will have to go in again. They will not make the end of the race because these fuel tanks can only fit 60% of race fuel in.
Right, and so that is going to certainly put them down in the order, and not a good day for them. Cope here trying to recover and make a bad day at least manageable. He's gotten his way up into 8th place right now. At the race start, we finally been able to figure out what happened to him. It looked like he just had a little bit of an issue. Oh, turned in a little bit too much, got sent off there and going wide through that corner, cutting it over. That would have given him a slow down penalty, and so he will have had to give that time back as well. And so just sort of all things going wrong there for the Olympus Esports driver, and that's what sees him so far down in the field.
Yeah, who thought 4 wide into the first corner was a good idea? Yeah, that was an absolute manic first corner, and it was Thomas Cope with the number 1 on his car is going to have a bit of a target on his back. Not literally for contact, but people are not going to give him room he wants, or they may have given him last season. So it's certainly going to be a tough year for him. But back at the front, as we watch Matthew McBride going up the inside of Kessler onto Wellington Straight. They'll go side by side down towards Brooklands, but I expect McBride to take that position. But Herbigneaux at the front with still only a 6/10 of a second lead. Carl Winkler, the German in the Audi, is going with him. And as I say that, Kessler is hanging on around the outside, and he will have the inside on McBride. So let's see who gets to run out of Lovefield. And McBride runs wide and has to give that position back to Kessler.
Yes, he does. Looks like he's going to try to fight there a little bit around the outside of Woodcut, and that's going to set up an opportunity here, but not going to make it too wide going down through Cops. Deckens behind there as well. Your leading Pro-Am driver at the moment, looking very, very interested in this battle. I think he's going to have something to say about it. They've got to be a little bit careful. Another Mercedes in the form of Larson there behind as well. Could start to try to close back in. McBride here as we ride on board with Deckens. Gonna hope to get a good run out of Maggots and Beckett's. Hold on as close as they go. And here comes the draft. I don't think he's going to be close enough to really get a move off, but I'll tell you what there, that's going to be Kessler feeling the pressure and going defensive.
Yeah, he has to go defensive down into Stowe. These battles are costing these guys time. McBride now is 5 seconds behind Thomas Cope, and he was ahead of Cope about 3 laps ago. So this is where the fighting really doesn't help the team, but Kessler there for WS Racing Esports really just putting the defensive on him for now and trying to hold back the Team Track Scotland car. And right behind is Martin Deckens, who is leading Pro-Am. He would not want to get involved in this fight for now. He just wants to keep pulling away from Gestrumbakken and Malachek behind, who are 2, 3 and 5 places behind. So at the moment, a good run for Deckens, which might see him in the top 10 by the end of this race.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to have to just keep his head down here, as you said, not try to get too involved in this, just let everything play out. That is really what you have to do to be able to get ahead in these kind of races if you are running in one of the lower categories in the Pro-Am or the Am field. You don't want to let anybody play themselves out. You don't want to put your nose where it shouldn't be. You just want to let everything happen in front of you.
Yeah, speaking of drivers that need to let things happen in front of them, Chris Daines, we're speaking about him before the start of the race. He started 8th. He's down in 42nd at the moment, 21st in class. His pace is a 59.4, which, yes, isn't up with the leaders, but it's quicker than people around him. So I'm expecting he's stuck in traffic at the moment and just trying to carefully work his way through and not do any more damage to the car. But we didn't quite catch what happened to him at the start of the race. But here is Brandon Tabone being challenged by Isaacson into Stowe Corner, and Isaacson's going to take place. And will this give Sapini a chance at the inside? They're going to go too wide into Club, and it is Tabone who takes the position back. These 3 Mercedes really fighting hard. They're going to let Lucas Lang into a battle in a minute, as it's Sapini going up the inside of Isaacson on the final corner. That's very hard to give each other space, but he's going to make it through, and the WS Racing esports driver now puts a car between him and Lucas Lang, his teammate.
That was some good heads up from Sapini, recognizing the opportunity and absolutely seizing on it, as we've got a whole fleet of Mercedes running together here. Different lines there coming through in those first sequence of corners as now they work their way out of that new sort of infield section, and they come out now onto the Wellington straight. Is anybody able to get a good draft here? Looks like Isaacson trying to hold on to the back of Sapini as much as possible, but I don't think he's got quite the overspeed, and indeed he is not going to be able to do it.
No, not able to make it through just at this moment in time. And just having a quick look at the order, well, it's just sort of calmed down a little bit. Biggest mover at the moment, Daniel Merchant. We saw him with brilliant speed in the Pro-Am category, joined it late last year, but certainly showed the way when he did join, and he's moved up a whopping 31 places in the opening 20 minutes to sit 23rd and 6th in class.
Great run there for Daniel Merchant. We've seen him be able to do some pretty impressive things. A very, very confident driver. Always seemed to be near the top of the Pro-Am category last year, changing things up here. Obviously this year jumping into that new Mercedes AMG, the GT3 Evo, and he's now trying to chase down Pinocchio there up ahead of him. Only about 3/10 of a second in between the two. Not that much of a run.
Yeah, not too much of a run.
20 minutes down, doing good.
Time to hang straight, but certainly looking to move past Hurgenka in the BMW, and he might get a good run onto.
It's just you and P2.
Take that position, and we're just coming up to
big gap to P3.
Gone on this race, so we may start seeing people risk a pit stop or two.
Just take care of the tires, and you'll probably be a lot better off than that Audi in the long run.
In the clear air, not far behind these is Stuart Winness in the pack as well, who we saw trying to move through from his 30th starting position. He is actually still P30, but right in the back of that pack, so he will be looking to move forward very soon. But still, at the front, we have an 8/10 of a second lead for Herbigneaux. Carl Winkler not giving him any rest whatsoever, but they are still pulling away from Brandon Tabone. Now, me and DJ had this conversation last year of what do you call a herd of Ferraris and things like that. I think we're going to have to come up with a herd of Mercedes this year, because we're going to see a lot of battles between very similar cars.
Yes, we are. As we focus on a couple of those Ferraris, though, that are out in the Pint right now. Currently, your first place in the AM category. Doing a good job running a 35th overall. He still has a little bit of breathing room in between him himself and Fowler, Verlest and Hülkenhout. There are 2 cars in between him and that Mercedes of Fowler, so he'll be sitting out to the pretty here at this point. Doesn't want to get too complacent about it, but that's at least a good thing for him to be thinking about.
Yeah, we've got Adam Morrison entered pit lane, so that could be the first of our stops. He is near the back of the field, so maybe a little bit of damage, but it'd be interesting to see whether he makes up positions or whether he needs to pit again towards the end of the race, whether he's been involved in an incident. But keep an eye on Adam Morrison and see what his pit stop time is to try and give us some kind of idea. Here's Martin Deckens, who leads the Pro-Am category, and he's got a nice gap here. I think it's about 5-6 seconds over Geston Strumbacken, who's second in class. So he will just want to hang on to the back of his pack for now, ready for pit stops and see where he is when he comes back out. But it's good, like you just said, DJ, it's nice to see them Ferraris in there. They're really good cars for the AM category, because they're quite a flexible car, but quickish in a straight line. They're well balanced, they're quite easy to drive compared to some of them. Speaking of easy to drive, Thomas Cope, fastest lap of the race, 57.7 to go quickest by 4/400ths of a second over Carl Winkler, who did a similar lap time on the last time by. So Thomas Cope now starting to push and make up that ground that he lost early on.
Yeah, and he is certainly starting to come in here as he closes up behind Marsani right now, working that Lamborghini around down through the corners, trying to see what he can have as they come down through Luffield right now. Tighter line there for Cope, trying to see if he can get a little bit of a better blast off of the line. Not looking like he's going to be able to set anything up here, and probably not wanting to go for anything necessarily. As we've said, Kop's a very hard place to overtake on, as is going up through Maggots and Beckett's. I think his best opportunity here with that number 1 to be able to get himself going is going to be going up the hill into Stowe.
Yeah, Cope will just be patient through here. But like we said, I think it was about 10 minutes ago we said it, Cope was 9 seconds off the lead. He is still 9 seconds off the lead, and he's been in the traffic, so he certainly has the pace to try and close on Herbigneaux. But whether he's got the pace to close back quickly, we'll have to wait and see.
Yes, we will indeed, as he starts. Ooh, a little bit of a look to the inside. I don't think that was a full-throated move. Just a little bit of a thing to see if he could maybe get Marsani to come off of the line a little bit. Marsani runs a hairline on the exit of Stowe. Cope still looking down to the inside, not going to commit to the full move, though.
No, not going to commit to the move, and we'll just go to a replay. And this is Matthew McBride coming out onto the hanger straight, and he's pulled to the side, and that looks like he's going to be towing. What has happened to Matthew McBride? Has he had an issue out of the sim, maybe with his own equipment, and he has to tow to the pits?
That's the only explanation that I can logically give there for why he would do that, running in a strong position. We'll have to see if we can get to the bottom of that, but we focus back on Thomas Cope. Looks like he's got a good run going through the infield loop. He's going to poke his nose down to the inside, and it's going to be a straight drag race going down the Wellington Straight. Cope with a better launch off of the corner. That's going to get him a nose ahead of Marsani, and he is going to be able to pull ahead, but Marsani thinks about fighting back, going down into the corner, and not going to happen.
Yeah, not worth taking that dive. He knows that Cope's quick. He's flashing his lights at Cope. I don't quite know why that would be, because Cope took a bit of a dive there, but it wasn't like he forced Marsani off the track, so I can only think it's a flash to say, get going Cope, let's close in on Lucas Lang in front, who is still behind Isaacson in 5th place and 6th place respectively. Speaking of the different cars that we have in the field, McLaren, Tim Perry up 12 places into 14. We have the top Lamborghini is Thomas Cope, the top Audi is Carl Winkler, the top BMW is the leader, Herbigneaux, and the top Mercedes is Sapini. Have I missed any type of car? The top Ferrari is now Paul Cowlishaw in 24th place, having his debut in the Pro-Am categories. We've got Brandon Zabone to the inside of Isaacson. I don't think he's going to make it around the outside of it. Isaacson takes place.
Carl most likely is going to be saving fuel. Try to jump you in the pits.
Side by side. I think Lang won't quite get it here, but he may get the cutback heading towards turn 1.
He's going to certainly think about it. Here he comes. There's the jig to the inside, as that is going to be Lang trying to fight it back. Ooh, that was a tight run there from Tabone, really trying to cut off any traffic around, as they're still going to be side-by-side going down to the infield loop here, looking for a little bit of a better run there is Lucas Lang, trying to carry a little bit more momentum around the outside now as they go, now looking for the crossover. I don't think he's going to be close enough to have it, and he's going to slot back into line.
Yeah, he's not quite made it through there. It's just in front, I think Isaacson and Sapini are side-by-side going down towards the Brooklands corner, and up the inside goes Isaacson again. Sapini round the outside, but these are just hemorrhaging time. 5.6 seconds behind the leaders at this moment in time.
What do you mean you don't see the fuel?
Bell go again, so that means some people are starting to have their pit stops, and it's about the right time as well.
Yes, it is getting closer to that halfway point in the race. We'll have to see when drivers decide to come in and get that fuel-only service, as we talked about.
You got 3 laps of fuel left right now.
Watch here, Isaacson trying to line up a move on Sapini as they go down into Baggett's and Beckett's. He's not going to be able to get the move done around the outside, so he's going to have to stay in line here. Even with some reduced aerodynamics in these GT3s, still plenty of aero wash to contend with as they come out there up Chapel now onto the Hangar Straight. Looks like Isaacson lost a little bit of time. I don't think he's quite going to.
Do you have auto fuel, or do you know how much you need?
No, Isaacson very quick in practice, quick in qualifying as well, and just wanted to move through as quickly as he can on Spini and try and pull away. But Spini doing a great job in front. Just also comment to the drivers who might watch this afterwards. If we are getting any of your names wrong, please let us know. We'll get them right next time out. We can only go with what we know at this moment in time, as Herbigneaux and Winkler very close on lap times out in front, but Winkler down to half a second, so he's just closing that gap, and Thomas Cope at 57.5 in the back for our reigning champion, and that #1 Lamborghini is absolutely flying at the moment, and he's taking, now he's got clear air, he's really taking the most out of them tyres, but then being patient when he's behind the other cars.
Yes, he is, but the one thing that he is going to be very happy to see is this continuing battle between Tabone and Lucas Lang. That is going to slow the pair of them down, and that is just going to reel them into the clutches here of Thomas Cope. So this is good news.
Yeah, he's going to be saving fuel so we can take care of those tires.
Here, Lang still riding in the tire tracks up Tabone, looking for something, anything, trying to find a little bit of a move. If he can get it, he's going to look maybe down to the inside there of left field, not going to be able to get it off on the corner, and they're not going to be able to have that move into Cobbs. He has to fall back just a little bit.
Yeah, just further down in field, Russ Fowler, our AM leader, is in the pit lane, so he will give up that lead for now while the pit stops happen, but he was leading the AM category just before he came into the pits. Now, pit stops all important because some of the drivers who have raced have experience of this series will know
1.9 laps.
maybe turn off your fast repair as well, because you may need it later on. We saw it with Herbigneaux, I think it was at one of the races where he had an accident late on but had the fast repair in the bag. If you don't turn that off while you have a pit stop, you've lost it. You lose it completely. So even if you haven't got any damage, so it's something that you really need to think about when you're taking your pit stop.
Yes, it very much is, as we focus on a nice little battle here in the back of the Pro-Am field of Srillis, riding around his. Oh, we've got some leaders coming down pit lane. This is going to be Lucas Lang, your highest placed driver, to come down in to get his service at about the 32-minute mark.
Yeah, you may have just seen him pop up into third place there, which is what I was going to talk about pit lane earlier on, but we've had so much to get through, but I wasn't able to get through it. Pit lane at Silverstone cuts off the whole club. So you go, oh, Thomas Cope, who is that? That was one of the back markers, maybe he lost it out of the pits. It was Mads Schur, who must have just come out of the pits and looked like he was on cold tyres, to be honest, or at least on ice. So Mads Schur certainly almost taking out our reigning champion there, not on purpose, but could have been so unlucky for Thomas Cope there. But what I was talking about with pit lane is it cuts the inside of club off, so you actually gain a lot of time by going through pit lane, but then obviously you have to come down to the speed limit, which means that it's not the quickest way around the circuit. It's always something to judge.
Yeah, 1.1, do you want to risk it?
You see Thomas Cope flashing his lights at the back marker, trying to get them out of the way so he can continue his charge towards Brandon Tabone.
And that back marker duly getting out of the way for your reigning champion. Cope now working his way through Cops, trying to close in on Tabone. It'll be interesting to see.
He might need to do a little lifting.
Cope is going to be able to close before they come down pit lane or not. Here's Lucas Lang. He has come back out in 15th, 16th, excuse me, place position, working his way around Luffield right now.
Yeah, we look at a timing screen and it actually comes up purple for that final sector because it literally cuts about 3 seconds off the final sector. So it's a huge gain, and that's why we get slightly confused with the purple sectors. But his pit stop time was 20.13 as Carl Winkler heads to the pits. Our second place driver trying to get the undercut on Herbigneaux, who we know will be one of the last to pit because he always is. Sapini's in, Tabone is in, Marsaini's in. Anybody going to carry on? Let's have a look. Isaacson carries on. Will Cope? It looks like Cope will carry on as well, which means he's been able to save that little bit of fuel behind the other drivers.
Just that little bit, and you never know what that can do. It can certainly help you out as the race goes along. If you're able to extend that stint a little bit, you've got a little bit less fuel in the car, and that can just gain you a couple of tenths. And we always like to say, if you're able to gain time in the pit lane, that is the better way to gain time rather than having to fight for it out on track. As we continue to follow Thomas Cope here, who's done a good job of sipping that fuel, as has your leader, Christoph Herbigneaux, something he is known for doing quite well.
Yeah, Herbigneaux certainly known for it and normally goes that lap longer. Here's
0.3.
about in 9th place, which shows the amount of drivers who are pitted. You can also see Daniel Merchant in the pits now. He had gained 37 positions before his pit stop, so he will be continuing his charge when he comes back out of pit lane. But here is Kimon Sapini, who really has Lucas Lang not far behind and is about the same distance behind Carl Winkler, so all is fair there. No gains on time there.
Man, you're cutting it close.
Leading the Pro-Am category up in 7th place.
It's literally half a liter.
I think it's your top 8 that haven't pitted yet, so they're all going round sorry, that's Cop's Corner. I get confused with the old pit lane, but they are going to look at trying to do another lap if they can. Herbigneaux will be coming round towards the pit lane this time, and he does head for the pit, so if Herbigneaux doesn't quite make it to another lap, I doubt many other drivers will.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there. We can see Isaacson coming on in. I wouldn't be surprised Cope coming in as well. I think this is going to be the end of the fuel window for these
clean
drivers
stop
as they go. There we see Chris coming down as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kessler. There he comes down. Everybody coming in here with Smart coming down, and Bresterbecken as well. So that is going to be pretty much all of your leaders. And there comes the McLaren of Tim Perry also coming in.
Yeah, that will mean that everybody will have pitted. I think Michael Griffin is not down as having a pit.
These people are insane.
A strange one. I'm not sure what. I'm sure I saw him head to the pit lane earlier. But here comes Carl Winkler. See where he comes out. Herbigneaux already out the pits. Here he comes. So where's Carl Winkler? He was half a second behind. Here he comes at speed. He's back up to speed, and Herbigneaux is in that pack of cars in there. So it looks like he may have gained about a second, but Herbigneaux having to be.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Well, good job.
Nearly an accident in front. Can Herbigneaux go 3 wide into here?
Oh! Little bit of argy-bargy with the Ferrari coming out of the infield section. Herbigneaux flashing his lights, trying to let everybody know that the leader is coming on through. This is not how he wanted to come out, and Winkler trying to piece his way through as well. This is going to be a little bit of a hurt for both of these drivers. That's very down to the inside board. Christoph Herbigneaux just trying to get through
it's good job, mate. Head down.
as fast as he can.
Let's get this one.
Yeah, it's always difficult for the leader because you're the first one on the scene, and that gap is now back down to half a second, and Carl Winkler is there with Herbigneaux. I think Herbigneaux maybe took a dive too early there with that one and just should have waited for Wellington straight. He would have done them all anyway, but he tried to force his way through. He's 9 tenths clear now of Winkler, who's having the same problem with the traffic, trying to get through, but it's so hard to judge because Herbigneaux had just come out of pits. The lap traffic wouldn't have known that he was there as the car goes spinning off there. That is not Carl Winkler, so that's one of the back markers, but Winkler now 1.7 behind. Sapini and Isaacson sit 3rd and 4th, Lang 5th. Cope has got ahead of Marsaini like he had before, so he is still trying to close down on Lucas Lang, so he didn't get a huge amount for Thomas Cope there, apart from some clear air, but he is only about a second off Lucas Lang now. Marthanian 7th to Bone 8th. Mike Crisp up into 9th. He's having a good run in Porsche. And Kessler down into 10th. In the Pro-Am category, Decken still leads from Preston Stormbacken and Alex Scarrett. And in the Am category, it's Christoph Otterholt who's jumped into the lead with a longer stint ahead of David Gill and Russ Fowler.
Indeed, a good run down through the field there is, oh, Cope makes a little bit of contact there with the back marker coming through Cops. Able to hold it down and lock it down, but just barely. And I think there's a little bit of red mist here for Thomas Cope, as that was going to be Nürburgring that you saw spinning off. That was that back marker that got a little bit of the side-by-side contact. As here they run it now down through the corner, trying to see what they can do. Cope looking like he may have a good run on Lucas Lang.
Yeah, we'll have a look down into Brooklands. I'm not sure there's a battle in front. That is Sapini and Isaacson still fighting it out over third place, and if they're fighting hard, then Lang and Cope will. We've seen these two very respectful racers racing each other all through last season, and they'll continue to do so here. Now, anybody who's watching might think, where's the blue flags, where's the back markers getting out of the way? This is GT racing, it's not Formula 1. They don't have to get out of the way. They get a blue flag to warn them of faster cars coming through. But it's not a given that you have to jump out of the way. It loses you less time to do so, but you don't have to. It's not a forced rule.
Yeah, they are not compulsory.
20 minutes to go.
As they go, it certainly does create a little bit of an interesting thing. And ooh, there you go, right as it runs. Lucas Lang getting held up a little bit there. I believe that is Luke Pint right up ahead, Luke Punt rather right up ahead of him. And here comes the run for Thomas Cope. He's going to look to make it 3 wide going down the hanger straight. Maybe try to run it around the outside there of Stowe. He's going to have a lot of commitment to make that work. Lang not giving it to him easy.
Fair play to Lucas Lang there. He could have very easily run Thomas Cope off the road that even bit more and tried to get him to slow down, but fair play by Lucas Lang. He saw the good move by Cope around the outside, gave him room and managed to hold him off. But now Thomas Cope will be looking to close on that gap on Isaacson. But he's got a couple of back markers at least to get past. And that's Morrison and Cranley Swash just in front, and before he even gets to the other two Mercedes.
Trying to get up in their way around as they go. Cope now just trying to work through some more back marker traffic. Oh, that may have been a little bit of contact there for your former leader as he now tries to get around Morrison. I think Morrison's going to give him a little bit of a breathe on the throttle, and indeed Cope is going to be on nice and by.
Hello Ryan, thanks for stopping by.
And the Lamborghini letting on by as they run. Here they go as they dive down and now into Brooklands. Trying to see what it is. Lang looking like he's losing time.
Yeah, I do feel for
Honor
at this stage, because you are 20 minutes to go in this race. You're fighting for your own positions, but you don't want to get in the way of the leaders and hold them up. And with 57 cars starting this race, it is going to be a packed field.
Did you get my text, Connor?
Wait till we get to some of the tighter tracks as well on the calendar. That will make it just that little bit harder to be able to do. To get through back markers. This is actually quite one of the wide open tracks which we go to, which makes it easier to pass these people. So this is going to be interesting as the season goes on.
Yeah, it certainly is. We head to some more club-style circuits later on in the season, and I think that is really going to change up the dynamics of the race. So we focus back here on Kieran Smart, trying to close down on Sawicki up ahead of him. Very good run here through Maggins and Beckett. Let's see if he's able to keep that speed up as they run. Trying to go. This is for 11th place overall.
Yeah, it's a close battle. Kieran Smart will want to do a little bit better than the outskirts of the top 10 as he has a look at Swarwick going down into Stowe, doesn't quite make it through. Since the pit stop, Herbigneaux been able to extend that lead out over Winkler, so he is certainly not letting Carl Winkler get too close to the rear of his car. And while we've got a slight pause in the action, which you'll be surprised to hear with the amount of cars on the track, we need to say thank you to our sponsors for this championship. As always, we have the Virtual Racing School, who can help you improve your on-track performance with 50 plus data packs, road and over races, set up track guides, data analysis software, and more.
are able to help you out, as you said, with all of those data packs. Incredibly helpful to be able to do 50+ data pack setups, track guides, data analysis software, and one-on-one coaching. Also want to give a massive thanks to SDK Gaming. Add a virtual live HUD to iRacing, shows timing towers, enhanced relative boxes, mini-maps, fuel calculators, and more. You can stream to Twitch. Let's complete racing on overlay. Let's complete overlay on iRacing. Broadcast your league and series with SDK. It syncs with your teams and your commentary, and you can focus on driver and overlays with your broadcast. And if you're driving, you can adjust your strategy on the fly. We also want to give a massive thanks to Apex Racing Academy. 29 data packs, setups, track guides integrated with VRS to help you out. Weekly coaching sessions plus many, many more. It is a great list of sponsors that help us put on events like this, and we could not be able to do anything without them. But right now we've got to keep focusing in on this battle. Sapini and Isaacson, this is the battle for P3, the final spot on the podium, and they've got to get a hurry up on as Thomas Cope is starting to close down on the back of this field.
Yeah, Thomas Cope pushing hard now. A 57.3 from the reigning champion. Nobody's been anywhere near that. I think the quickest we've had so far is a 57.6 by anybody else. And Thomas Cope absolutely flying now, taking chunks out of these two Mercedes in front. And we've said it before, when drivers get stuck behind somebody, they design the back of the car. Thomas Cope could design how to overtake Mercedes today, because that's what he's been doing ever since the start of this race, and he is now closing in on Isaacson and Sapini. It's probably as far as he will get in the last 15 minutes of this race, but he will really want to close in on, get on that podium to start the year off with a very strong drive.
Yeah, a very, very strong drive, a good qualifying, and remember that little bit of argy-bargy at the beginning of the race that set him down, that put him further in the order. We focus back here. This is Deckens and Larson, only separated by about 0.2 of a second. Big move from Larson going down to the inside there, and I think that was going to be Deckens just kind of recognizing that that was a pro driver coming up on through and letting him by.
Yeah, Deckens knows who he's fighting in pro-am category, and it's struck back at about 5 seconds back, so he doesn't want to fight this at this stage, and he just wants to try and cement that pro-am category victory to start the season off. As you can see, Christian Schumbacher a little bit further behind. Here's Christoph Otterholt, who leads the AM category, but he has David Gill coming behind him. That's Regan Hugenhout in between them, but you can see the Audi, which had the incident early on at the Luffield corner, but he is now trying to close in on that gap. He's about a second behind. Otterholt knows how to win these class races, so
yeah, they tend to fall off towards the end.
Trying to close in the gap, and just behind is Villist and Danes.
Oh, it's here.
That and the brakes.
A big look there from Kieran Smart on Sawicki as they went down up into Stowe, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. But a little bit of a twitch of oversteer there for Sawicki. Is that going to open up a crossover for Kieran Smart? Doesn't look like it. They've got to be careful, though. Larson and Deckens, that battle directly behind them, that could certainly fire off as well. Remember, we just saw Larson's be able to get by Deckens as they run.
Yeah, before we were on about Daniel Merchant gaining a huge amount of positions, only the mere 28 at the moment. He lost out a little bit in the pit stops and sits 9th in class, a little bit further back 11th in Pro-Am class is Jens Goosen, who gained 26 during this race at the moment. But that'll be, they've still got another 10 minutes to gain another 20 or so.
Yeah, they've got plenty of time to be able to do that for drivers like this. They'll be able to gain those back in no time at all. Continue to watch this battle. Kieran Smart moving on in the back on Sawicki and Kessler as they go. A little bit of a look down to the inside. Not going to go for it there. Larson thought about a little bit of a move up to the inside of Kieran Smart. That one not going to fire off either.
No, I think we may have David Gill in the pits for a second time. He pitted earlier for the damage from the contact at Luffield, and he's now down pit lane to make sure he makes it to the end. So a bit of a false story there for him running in second place. He's coming out of the pits now though. Can he beat Russ Fowler out? Because if he can, he will stay second in class. Yes, he does beat Russ Fowler out, so a great stint by David Gill. He's took a second pit stop and now still officially sits second in class.
great run there for Dan. A little bit of action there behind as we watch. That is how the Trophy as they fight it out. Ferrari versus Porsche. Not a lot of words we're used to saying out on track at the moment right now. But it looks like that Porsche of Trophy is going to be able to hold on to the position for now.
Yeah, it's having to really fight off the Ferrari just behind him. You know, Ferrari is a good car, and it dives to the inside of the Porsche going into Brooklands. Two side-by-side battling for fourth in class at the moment in time. Fourth and fifth this will be in the AM category. Important points to start off the season, and as we said before, each position does make a difference in your points total at the end. You don't just get fourth or fifth in class. It is the difference between 36th and 37th in the race.
Yeah, so you're absolutely wanting to be fighting for every single piece that you can as we focus back on the battle at the top here. The battle for the podium in the pro category still not completely decided yet. Come on, Sapini holding off Isaacson here, doing a very, very good job as they run. But I've got to wonder if Nils-Erik Isaacson is going to be trying to make a little bit of a push here, especially with that Lamborghini.
Thomas Cope 10 minutes ago.
Yeah, Thomas Cope a mere 0.7 of a second quicker on the last lap, so Thomas Cope will be with these two before the end of this race and will be part of this battle. Now, can Isaacson try and make that move?
He sat in the draft, he probably saved.
You see in the right-hand corner, the gap between Isaacson and Cope constantly coming down.
Tires since the beginning of the race.
So it's going to be interesting to see how the Lamborghini fights with these two Mercedes.
Yes, it is. Remember that Lambo tends to be a little bit twitchier, a little bit easier to get pointed into the corner. But this new AMG Evo does not necessarily have the massive understeer that the old Mercedes used to have. So it will be very, very interesting to see a little bit of a testing grounds, as it were, as they run right now.
Yeah, this is going to be honest, this race is going to be quite interesting for a lot of people who haven't seen this new Mercedes yet, may have it, may want to test it, and they can see the performance of it against other cars, and running third and fourth, sixth, eighth, but it is still that trusty old BMW from 2 seasons ago that is leading the way. But Carl Winkler has closed that gap, he's halved it since the pit stops, and it's down to 8 tenths. Doesn't look like we've had a huge amount of traffic either, so that Audi and Carl Winkler really flying, and Sim Racing legacy driver wants to get that win on the board. I've watched him for a couple of seasons now, and he just, for whatever reason, is sort of a nearly man at times, a bit like Lucas Lang, and it'd be great to see Winkler push Herbigneaux to the end of this race to see who will come out on top.
Yes, it will, and we'll have to see how it does. But only about 9 minutes remaining in this race. A whole gaggle of cars here behind, back in 13th. This has disaster written all over on it. Drivers had to be very, very careful. Kieran Smart trying to go down into the corner. There's Larson as well, dealing with some lap traffic.
Yeah, that's Rance, who's just trying to stay out the way. Deccan's just been cut off at the back of that, but that's fine for him. He is in the Pro-Am category, so that's a different fight for him. Still got 3 seconds over Greston Schrottbacken, so he's controlling that gap at these times. But there is one thing I have realised. I don't think in the Apex Racing League GT Trophy, whether it's Pro or AM, since I've been doing it over the last 3 or 4 seasons, that we've seen an Audi take an outright victory. I think it might be the first if Carl Winkler can do this.
I think very well may be right in the way that things run as they go now. We may see those colors coming to the fore as it's going to be BMW versus Audi for the lead of this race. Only about 8 minutes to go, with Thomas Cope again setting the fastest lap of the race back from fifth position.
Yeah, Thomas Cope now on the back of that battle with Sapini, and that's Isaacson going up the inside of Sapini. It's maybe a little bit too late because Thomas Cope is now there. It's a bit too late to start trying to move his way through, and he's trying to go around the outside of Sapini. Sapini will have the inside line. Thomas Cope will go to the inside of Isaacson, and Cope might get both of them on this run down into Brooklands.
He's going to be certainly hoping for it, but he's going to have to be the last of the late breakers to make it work. Goes down into Brooklands. He's going to be ahead of both of them, and he's got the move done. What an incredible move from Thomas Cope.
Thomas Cope, well done. Take a bow. What a move that was. He anticipated what was happening with the two Mercedes side by side and took his chance and took both of them. It's so easy to lock a brake into Brooklands when you're turning in there on the brakes, and he didn't do that. He showed his class by not running into the side of Sapini and taking both of them. I think it shocked Sapini a little bit going into there as we look back now at this battle of Kessler, Swarwick, Smart, Larson and Deckens just on the back of it, and this is all over the final place in the top 10.
Yes, it is. A lot of bragging rights, a lot of points on the line for these drivers. They all want to get it as they fly their way through Cops right now. Clock ticking down, only about 6.5 minutes left to go.
6 minutes to go, Christoph. Yeah, time to get your elbows out.
We're probably looking at 3 or 4 laps. As we say, Thomas Cope at 57.29. He is still pushing. He's closed 2/10 on Carl Winkler that time. It's a 5-6 second gap, so I very much doubt Thomas Cope will be closing that gap to Carl Winkler, but it's whether Carl Winkler will close that gap to Herbigneaux. He's going down to half a second, and he was 3/10 quicker on the last lap.
Yes, he was. So the gaps are coming down here as they go. 6 minutes left to go in the race as everyone continues to push. Waiting to see here if Sawicki's going to be able to close down on Winkler BMW versus Mercedes as they run.
Yeah, these Mercedes, it's Mercedes, BMW, Mercedes in this group. So it's all fair love and war between the German manufacturers, and actually we have Porsche just ahead in Crisp, who is actually, I say just ahead, he's 15 seconds clear. Mike Crisp had a very good race in the Porsche, very quietly gone about his job.
That may work in our favor.
At this moment in time.
Yeah, not a bad run at all to be able to run up there and get close to Tabone. Obviously a newcomer into the series there. Good to see him being able to get that Mercedes up into the top 5. Everybody trying to take the draft that they can here as they dive down. Little bit of a look to the inside, but I don't think that's going to be coming anything from Larson.
No, it's just a kind of one of them looks where you're not going to make the move and you're just trying to scare the person in front. But these are pro drivers. You're not going to just scare somebody off the road in this series. Well, I say that Thomas Cope did with Sapini and Isaacson. So, and these two are still going at it. Thomas Cope's gone straight through them and kept going. The two Mercedes still side by side, and if they don't watch out, Lucas Lang will be on the back of them before long.
Yes, they will. That's going to be Sapini trying to hold it into the inside. They're able to keep it down. Isaacson not able to make the long run work around to the outside. Now they dive down into those final couple of corners, and it looks like it's going to be Sapini able to hold it forward now, but that pressure from Isaacson has got to start feeling a little bit here soon.
Yeah, Sapini and Isaacson have literally been side by side for most of this race. Probably could design each other's cars on a drawing after this because they've been looking at each other so closely. It's getting Smart almost runs wide into Swaska, down into Club Corner. They're going to keep it, and yet another half look by Larson just behind, but you just lose time doing that. So the German, the guy from Denmark, Larson, just having to just sit in behind and wait his turn. But these 5 cars very close together, and in the end this may be holding up Deckens just a little bit, but Geston struck back and not able to close that gap.
No, not at all. Ooh, a little bit of a close down there. I think Kieran Smart getting put offline. A little bit of Sawicki had to check himself up from Kessler. Is that going to open up a little bit of a Pandora's box here as they go down through out of the section? And indeed, here comes Kieran Smart down the Wellington Straight. It's going to be a straight BMW versus BMW drag race. Who's going to be able to be later onto the minors? Smart down to the inside. Looks like he's got it done.
Yeah, Kieran Smart, that is the Kieran Smart we saw last season, taking no prisoners in his overtaking moves and worked perfectly to make his way through. And next up is Kessler for that top 10 position. Out in front, Winkler's had a bit of a slow lap and is now 1.0 behind Herbigneaux. So Herbigneaux stretched that out through a little bit of traffic, and it looks like the Belgian might be taking the first victory of the season and his second in a row.
Crucially here, he will come to the line, and if my math is correct, it'll be 2 to go for him at the line as we watch here. Isaacson still trying to close down on Sapini. They've got some more lap traffic up ahead of them. That could open up the door for the 177 if he so chooses.
Yeah, Isaacson been trying left, right and centre to get past Sapini, but Sapini has stood firm throughout this race. Kieran Smart has made it past Kessler, going around the outside of Stowe Corner. If he pulls this one off on the inside of club, that would be a great move. We see somebody dive to pit lane. It's Swarovski. Has he got damage or a penalty maybe?
Maybe or could have potentially misfueled the car there a little bit as well. And so we will have to see after the race what that is, but it looks like Kessler tried to fight back there a little bit on Kieran Smart, not able to do it down into the first corner. Indeed, runs a little bit wide, and that's going to allow for Kieran Smart to scamper off into the distance by just that little bit.
Yeah, we have Sapini and Isaacson swapping positions again in 4th and 5th place, so those two Mercedes still side by side on the exit of Luffield. Isaacson on the outside, Sapini placing that Mercedes exactly where he needs to just defend this 4th position. And as you can see now, Thomas Cope not even in the picture as he's pulled out a 2.5 second gap in front.
Yeah, he is just running.
Last lap, Christoph. One more to go.
Hold on to that final podium position. A good recovery drive for Cope. Remember, he had that very scruffy opening lap, and now been able to get back up on a podium. So kudos there to your reigning champion. As we continue to watch Sapini and Isaacson working their way around C.Herbigneaux coming through the final couple of corners right now. He will be taking the white flag this time by.
He will be taking a white flag, but Carl Winkler has not given up on this victory. I said it was about a second. He's closed back down to half a second. The Audi very late on the brakes. I don't know if Herbigneaux's had a bit of traffic in the wrong parts of the circuit, but Carl Winkler not going to rest, going to really push Belgium towards the end of this race. And the German wanted to stand on that top step and take the early championship lead here. Half a second he closed in the last lap. There's a car just coming out of pits. Will that get in the way of either of these? I doubt it. Yeah, Carl Winkler right up the rear of that BMW. Both back markers doing a great job of getting out of the way. Herbigneaux taking a bit of a wider line out onto Wellington Straight, but Carl Winkler is right there in the slipstream.
They'll be getting the full benefit of the draft here as they come down onto the Wellington Straight. You can see Herbigneaux trying to move off to the inside there, doing a little bit of weaving, trying to break that draft as much as possible. Winkler thought about a move going down into the corner, but decided against it. Going to stay in line here, try to see what that Audi can do coming through Luffield.
Yeah, if he can get a good run, which he seems to have squared off the corner and got a good run, and can hold it through Beckett's and the Maggot section, he may get a run down towards Stowe Corner and into club, but Herbigneaux is a very clever driver and he will know all the tricks that the German will have. But the gap is down at 0.3 of a second. They both run slightly wide at Cops. They won't be fussed about that now. It's the final lap. And if they're not close on the penalty score, they won't need to worry about that. Carl Winkler,
well done, mate.
Really close as
awesome drive. Congratulations.
Onto the hanger straight.
That was intense.
Here they go, continuing to
Mega
push
drive.
as they run. Is the draft going to be enough here for Winkler to be able to close this down? The gap coming down from 0.3 of a second. He's going to have a look to the inside, but I think he's going to be too far back.
Yeah, just a bit too far back for Winkler, but will he get a run into club? I think that little dive has just cost him a little bit. He's going to look to the inside, but Herbigneaux is going to
start how you finished. I told you it would come to you.
Christophe Herbigneaux is going to take victory here at Silverstone for the opening race of the GT Trophy.
Now you got to go do an interview.
Just ahead of Carl Winkler, who's pushed him all the way today.
A great drive from both the Belgian.
Awesome job, man. That was a great race.
Here behind them, Thomas Cope on a good recovery drive.
Good show.
To be able to come home
and the new livery.
P3 Sapini.
Nice.
Able to hold off Isaacson with one of the best defenses I have seen in a
new team, new livery.
To hold on to fourth. Well
done. Well done.
Yeah, it's super close.
I got the replay. Don't worry about it. I'll get some photos.
Who is going to win
yeah, I'm in your session.
Category. That is Geston Strumback and right behind him, so he's closed through these last few laps. But it is Deckens who takes it from Strumback, and they're just behind the battle for 10th place with Smart, Kessler and Larson.
He was going to have to send it if he was going to try to get to you. You have too much pull coming out of the corners. There's nothing he can really do. That's crazy.
By about 5 seconds, so Gill
Well done, mate.
really been flying since he had to do that extra pit stop, and might be just kicking himself about that extra stop unless he had a black and white flag to come into a pit. But Christoph Otterholt quietly gone about his business for Scrat Racing, and the Norwegian is about to take his first win of the season.
Yes, he is. Just a couple of quarters to navigate now as he comes out of that final complex, and he will cross over the line to take victory in the AM category. There is David Gill, as you said, probably kicking himself a little bit, just a little bit off of what he could have done.
Yeah, it's just that extra pit stop has cost him. Russ Fowler here coming home in 3rd place. I think he'll be happy with that. Up on the podium for the first race of the season, and ahead of some bigger names in the series, so scoring some big points here at the end of the race. But what a race, and looking at it, just looking at the live timing, if I scroll down, I think we ended up having 53 finishers out of the 58 who signed up here tonight, which is an amazing thing to happen, having all them drivers here and not only having, what, 4 retirements from the race.
Yeah, very, very impressive run as they go. Want to bring you the final finishing order there. You can see, as we said, Herbigneaux, Winkler, and Koch taking those top steps there. Sapini and Isaacson rounding out the top 5. A little bit surprised to see Matthew Crisp as far down. Kieran Smart, both of them having a little bit of rough races as they go, but still good runs across the board for everybody. As they run, and we are ready, I believe, to be joined here in the booth by one of our drivers, our 3rd place finisher, Thomas Koch. Thomas, a little bit of a scruffy start there for you, but a heck of a recovery.
Yeah, good job to Christopher and Carl on P1 and P2. It's a shame I couldn't be up there fighting with them, but they just had enough pace. Obviously, I had the early incident. I think we were 4 wide going through T1 from what I was just looking at. So, yeah, it was a hectic start, but happy for the good recovery and get back up on the podium.
Well, talk to me a little bit about coming back up through the field. I mean, were you able to just sort of calm yourself down and methodically come through, or was there a little bit of red mist sneaking in behind the sim?
There was a bit of red mist. Originally, I was because I didn't know what happened, but as I've got a little saying on my wheel, which wolf will you feed? Which always reminds me of not feeding the wrong wolf in terms of thinking negative thoughts. The whole race has been positive. Even when after the incident, it was straight back in. Right now, I need to regroup and get going again. And obviously, thinking positively has helped up the pace. And I think towards the end of the race, when I got some clean air, I was consistently running faster than the leaders. So it's a shame I couldn't be up there with them in the end of the race.
Well, talk to me about the end of the race. I mean, in the closing quarter of the race, you were able to pull off a double move on Sapini and Isaacson coming down out of the infield section. Talk me through that, man. That was just poetry in motion.
Yeah, I went for a wider run coming out of turns 4, the left-hander, tight left-hander coming down the back straight, or the front straight really, and I kind of trapped I don't know who it was, but I trapped the first car behind the car in front, and then took a little bit of a lunge on the car in front and hoped it stick. And yeah, it ended up pretty well in the end. I didn't expect to be able to pull that off as cleanly as it was, but it was really fun in motion taking that move as I did.
Well, it certainly was a